Yep, he's on Zoom. Okay. Morning, Kevin.
Good morning.
Only listening. I get it. He's just got cruise control on driving with his hand there. Oh, that's delivered. Yeah, that's a good way to do it. Yeah.
I'm not driving on the way up. I'm driving on the way back.
Okay, I think we have everybody in.
At 9 o'clock, I'm going to call the meeting to order. We'll start with the Pledge of Allegiance.
Allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Roll call.
Mockler,
Here.
Graylobe,
Here.
Brady,
Here.
Gilbertson,
Here.
TZ is absent today.
Approve agenda with, what was it you wanted to add? Those two.
Secure SD contract.
All right, I move that we approve the agenda with the addition of the secure SD contract.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Any conflict of interest declarations? Hearing none.
I guess,
Sorry.
well, there's a Missouri Valley Growth abatement
Oh.
on here that's gonna come up at some point. I'm on that board, so I'll be recusing myself when that comes around.
And that's a city, well, I guess Kevin's on it, so.
Yeah.
But that's the whole board, don't it? I was worried we weren't gonna have a quorum, but Kevin's on, so we're good.
Yeah, yep.
Approved minutes for the April 6th joint meeting, April 14th meeting, and the April 4th equalization minutes meeting.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. I need a motion to recess the Board of County Commissioners and reconvene Consolidated Equalization Board to consider the following appeal.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye. Opposed, same sign. We're in joint equalization, consolidated equalization. Yeah. Rodney and Jill Schaefer.
Do we need Jay's online? Is that okay? I don't
Yeah.
know. Okay, cool.
Yeah.
Awesome. All right, so we went out and looked at Rodney and Jill's property, and some of the first things that we noticed is that we had full, it's called partition finish in the basement. There's kind of 4 levels of basement finish. We had full partition, which means it's as nice as it is upstairs. The basement had the shelf ledges that Jill mentioned. There was also just carpet remnant on the floor, drop down ceilings on a little less than half of it. And then the only area that really had finish was the base or the bathroom. But the plumbing for the bathroom and the extra sink in the basement had been run over the top of the floor, so it had a false flooring. So we reduced the basement pretty significantly. The other thing is we added the porch on the back that was not on our sketch, and then updated the effective age to indicate how much remodeling had actually happened. So the original effective age on the home was 1945, and after running our math and everything, we determined about 14% had actually been remodeled. That would account for the kitchen having been done in the early 90s, the bathroom upstairs being done in the early 90s, but beyond that, it was still plaster walls, original wood flooring throughout, original wall treatments, that kind of, and when you were upstairs, there had an additional ductwork. It was still the grates that you kind of look down through. So with that, we did reduce the overall value from 262,126 down to 179,520. If you look at my spreadsheet, that does change the assessed price per square foot from 137.80 down to 92.38. It's about a 30% drop. A lot of that with being the basement and the effective age. So that's our recommendation. Jill did sign off on it, but the board can discuss, and if they feel otherwise.
You said she did sign off. Okay.
I had a few things, Travis. I think that's kind of a big jump. I respect Linnea's numbers, but I think that's a big jump at once. And I know she thinks of all the neighbors all the time, but I am too. And I did look at the increases over the past 8 years, going back to 18, and they had the least amount of increase, 7.65 per year versus 8.25. So I'd make a motion that we split the difference here and evaluate it at 221. I just took the 262 minus that 180. I rounded numbers here, and so the 262 minus 41.
So I didn't get in depth as you did, but my only question would be, if she's using the same factors for everybody, how does that affect this property then? I mean, she's plugging the exact same criteria that she's doing on the other ones. Does that affect, are we going down a rabbit hole here? Or,
Well, my logic was that
yeah, I understand.
the people, I just went houses to the north and theirs and two south. So nothing as in depth as her research, but just thought that was a big jump all at once. And if
Yep.
the other neighbors see that, they're gonna think, well,
What's it gonna be next year then? I mean,
and I thought too, if we did this now, it can be revisited next year.
If you look at my second spreadsheet, so the first one is the comparable she provided us to end with. The second sheet is, I had revisited some sale comparables after we did our walkthrough. I picked some different ones, and you can see there what the average assessed per square foot versus the sale price per square foot. Glenn's recommendation or motion would put it at 116.22 a square foot, which is still pretty in line with those sales. The bottom three lines are kind of going to be your assessed, your sale, and your ratio.
Well, one of the things I noticed here, so obviously the total square foot finished. I mean, that's drastically changed. I'm assuming that's the basement changed, correct?
Yes.
Because that total square foot in the original one was assuming it was fully completed base.
Yep.
And from what you described.
No.
Very minimal.
Yeah.
Okay. And I'm assuming it's because of the age, it's probably a basement that's typical. It's shallow.
Yep.
There was a bathroom, small bathroom.
That is one thing that puts her ahead a lot of the comparables is that she does have 3 bathrooms. There's a bathroom on each level. I looked at everything on the 300, 400, 500, and 600 block of North Dakota Street. It's a lot of data. I have it if you want it, but it's a lot. I can just run through what the medians are. The overall median square footage is 1,300 square feet, and she's at 1,740. The median bedroom is 4, and she only has 2. And then the median bathrooms are 2, whereas this property has 3. So kind of there's some amenities that are better, some that are worse. But the average or the median price per square foot for that entire stretch of North Dakota Street is $109 per square foot. And that's assessed, not sale.
And so, in looking at this, the question I have, there was a change to 3 bedroom to 2 in the room. We had talked about if there was two bedrooms upstairs, there's a dining room, and that dining room had a window and a small closet, things like that, so we now, is that dining room not counted as a bedroom? So
We So the main level doesn't have any formal closet areas. They're kind of makeshift closets with some plywood and tension rods and like a curtain kind of situation. It's not a built-in closet. And then there's a false wall that's been put up between the living and dining room. If you think of your typical like old farmhouse that's 4 rooms on the main floor that you kind of walk all the way around, you can go in a circle. That would be the typical layout of this home, but they've put a false wall in between the living and dining room. And then the dining room has a door on it to the kitchen. So that door and the false wall create a bedroom out of the dining room. But we took it off our record as a dining room because it doesn't have a formal closet with a door.
But it is being used as a bedroom.
Yes. And I believe she did say that that had all been checked out with the city. Again, my office is not interested in code enforcement. We're looking at how is it being used?
then it was downgrade on condition with that.
Yes. Again, no updating to siding. Some of the windows had been switched to vinyl, but there were quite a few original windows that had aluminum storm screens over them.
Not totally against the just change on that value, and I understand the bonds of concern. I do think you would split the difference of 221, I think it's a little high. And I'm also wondering, do you start going down with that as well? You start just throwing numbers without actually having data back that side. Cautious on adjusting just because of that rabbit hole, so to say.
So kind of some number, I didn't know if Jay wanted to chime in.
Oh, no, I'm good. I can kind of see both sides of the argument here so far. I can see where Gilbertson's coming in and maybe think it's a little high, but also if you're using the numbers for every location in the neighborhood, I mean, the numbers kind of speak for themselves when you're comparing them to the comps.
I will say there's kind of a mix in there of homes that have been remodeled. There's a few that have new concrete under the porches have been converted to living space. You kind of go every other between having the original wood siding that they've just been painting versus they've updated the siding to vinyl or composite. The windows, it's a wide mix along that based a lot upon how the different landlords rent them. I think kind of my numbers, I was looking more at how the neighbors are assessed. You could also look at, if you look at the whole of North Dakota Street, you've got that 10901, which is higher per square foot than what I've dropped it to at the 9238. So both of those would have justification. Glenn's 116, that's in line with our median sale for comparables being at 120. So that's the fun part of mass appraisal. It's not so fun, but it is, there's a range, right? Because this home isn't selling. This isn't my median sale. This doesn't change my factor. This doesn't change how everyone's about to get taxed. It's this weird zoom into one property and deciding where it falls amongst its neighbors.
We did adjust one last meeting. Just shot a number and lowered it a little bit. So
I do have a motion.
I think, yeah, I have a little hesitation, similar to what's been expressed, just making sure that we have a consistent process that we can point to justify the number that we end up on, and so that's why I put some weight on the work that your office does. And when you bring these recommendations, especially when they've been signed, then that to me represents a successful negotiation with the party, and that I really appreciate the documentation that you bring. So I think I do have concerns about, just deviating from that path without a really strong justification. I definitely hear where Glenn's coming from though, too. That's a big drop. So, in light of that, I mean, I think I've heard you express the cost per square foot being, of Glenn's proposal being somewhat in line with some of the neighboring ones. Hesitation, yeah.
Thanks. I think, you tried getting into this residence before the assessments, correct?
I personally haven't. The last time we reviewed our office, it would have been during COVID, at which point we were not entering homes. We were sending out questionnaires. Whether or not they returned them with accurate information is on the homeowner.
I just want to iterate to everybody here and also the public that are listening in, that's kind of important why we get those inspections or surveys, because accuracy. And now coming down the line here, because that wasn't completed, it was inaccurate, and we're taking time and effort for this appeal. And now are we too high, are we too low? You know, I think this been done, we probably wouldn't even be here today on this. So I just think that's really important to make sure that the public is getting those assessment survey inspections.
So how are we assessing this? Are we assessing this as a 4-bedroom or a 2-bed?
2-bedroom, but finished area is more important to how the final value works out. After our inspection, I mentioned there was a bathroom done in the 90s. I do believe upstairs used to be a 3-bedroom, and they took one of the bedrooms, cut it in half, created a bathroom, and then now that other bedroom is no longer a legal bedroom because it's so small. It's like 6 by 8. So they use it as like an office, the current renters.
I'm trying to recall back to the discussion on the other day, and I thought I remembered that in property owner's presentation, they expressed that they had been watching their valuation climb higher and higher and higher for a long time. That was part of the grievance that they were coming in to address. So I weigh that against the large drop this year, that we might just be resetting to a more appropriate level, and that and even if it is a big drop, that might just in a sense represent how much they may have been overburdened for several years. And I mean, I think Mayor Cole made a good point. That might have been because they didn't turn in a survey that could have lowered their taxes, but yeah, that
Value.
or their value.
Taxes.
That's absolutely, thank you, Linnea. May I never misspeak in that very foolish way again. Yep.
So still have a motion. No second. Motion dies, lack of second.
They should accept this, the recommended change.
I'll second.
I have a motion second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Nay.
Nay.
Passes. What was Jay?
No, it's Kevin.
I think Kevin was it.
Kevin, were you?
I was
today?
a nay, yes.
Okay.
Yeah,
Let's do.
okay. So we'll do a roll call just to make sure. Rich,
Aye.
John, Travis,
Aye.
Jeffrey,
Aye.
Glenn,
Nay.
Kevin,
Nay.
Jay,
Aye.
Motion passes.
And with that, if anybody else along North Dakota Street feels aggrieved, my office takes owner requests. So if somebody feels the same way, they do not have to wait for the appeal process. They can contact us and we'll do a walkthrough. All right.
So I'll entertain a motion to it. That's all we've got. So entertain a motion to adjourn the consolidated board and reconvene as county equalization board.
So move.
Second.
Motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Thank you. Thanks, Jay.
Thanks, guys. Appreciate it.
Thank you.
Oh, we've got Wade Druin, Wade and Chris Druin.
Sure if he was able to attend today or not.
I don't see him.
All right. So I did rework some of my spreadsheets. We found those numbers that were off last week. So I've provided you with new copies of spreadsheets. You guys had the appraisal emailed to you and had a chance to look at that. I'm still going to recommend that we leave it at the value after we did our walkthrough in September. We had ended up dropping it after that walkthrough from the previous value in 2025. Looking at the appraiser's comps versus the next sheet is my sale comps, showing that it's in line with the value for both the median price per square foot and the sale price per square foot for the comps that I pulled was $259.08. He's at $245.94. And then the third sheet that I brought for you guys today is the comparable neighbors. Again, all of these neighbors are within 5.2 miles of the home, similar quality and conditions, similar year built. Some are a little older, some a little newer, but all within about 20 years time span. And looking at the assessed price per square foot on those, the median is $278.55. I have the home at $245.94. The big question was kind of, do you go with an appraisal if an appraisal is done, or do you go with the assessor's office? Both are an opinion of value. Mine is based in mass appraisal, and appraiser is using fee appraisal practice, which they're tied in a little more to. They can use homes within a certain distance, and they usually state that in the appraisal. They can use sales only up to about 6 months in the past, and that also ties them a little bit, or ties their hands a little bit, what I'm trying to say, and that they can only go back 6 months. For me, I did not change values for 2026 in my rural areas, and so I'm going back to November 1st of 24. So November 1st of 24 to November 1st of 25, no, November 1st of 23 is the sales would go back to, showing that. The other thing is that there was some questions about how the appraiser arrived at adjusting and what their adjustments were. Just some things is like, we assessed additional acres at 7,500 a square foot. The way they adjusted sales was 35. I said square foot, acre. I apologize. Our additional acres, 7,500 an acre. They adjusted at 3,500 an acre. And then things like if their comparable was on a gravel road versus a paved road, they actually did a negative 10,000 adjustment to everyone on a gravel road, but the subject is on a gravel road. So some of that could be your baseline. There's just some things in there. And then I think ultimately my biggest question was trying to figure out why the appraisal was done in the first place. So I talked to Minnehaha County. There was conversation about which appraisals we as the assessor should put more weight in, and if it's an appraisal done to sell, or that there's usually more weight, right? You're really trying to land on a market value. To refinancing or finding out equity in a property, there's still the required care taken with it, but those refinance appraisals get kind of tricky as far as what they're actually trying to prove. And after our register of deeds is the one that logs all the mortgages that happen against land in the county, we were not able to find evidence that there had been refinanced a new mortgage against this property. So that kind of leads to why was an appraisal done? That was a follow-up question I had for Wade today, and he's He's not on. But with all of that, I'm just looking at, again, those homes within 5 miles that are all assessed the same way.
I was looking at that house in Yankton County. Why would that be included? It's over in the,
On the appraisal.
yeah,
Yeah.
and it's actually in the city of Yankton. So I'm wondering why it was,
Are they looking for sales?
And they're limited in that 6-month window, so they've got to cast a wider geographic net maybe.
It is right behind the bowling alley next to Walmart within Yankton city limits. It's a 1957 home on a partial basement, no attached garage because the original attached garage was converted to living space, and they still have all the original cabinetry except for in the kitchen.
Seems like variable.
It also was not adjusted for age, which I found interesting that the sale price wasn't for that. Comp number 6, I would throw out immediately. It's a 3,000 square foot house, no basement, polished concrete floors throughout, no flooring. And then comp number 1 from the appraiser is a old farmhouse that was moved onto a new crawl foundation, with an addition, again, no attached garage. So that kind of leaves you comps 2 through 4. Comp 2 doesn't have a third place. Our subject property has 3.
the square footage too is, there's none of these that are really very close. So,
Yeah.
and again, with this house being a rural house, I understand you're looking for comps, but it should still be in the country is what I'm, because utilities are different and
Well, and that's the difference between appraisal and what Linnea does.
Right.
Also.
Right. So on that, if you don't mind, I can jump in. You asked specifically if an appraisal at the last meeting, if an appraisal is, you have to take, right, must be followed. We were able to look into that. I feel very confidently that no, the director of equalization is not bound. Appraisal. Of course, the director must individually assess each tract of real estate as its fair market value. There is a legal presumption of correctness that attaches to her valuation and her process pursuant to state law. A private appraisal presented by a taxpayer traditionally, and how this has been interpreted in the past under case law, is certainly evidence, adversarial evidence against her valuation. And it must be essentially, she then has to kind of contend with that. Again, there is this presumption that she's correct. This appraisal can be utilized as adversarial evidence to her valuation process. If that happens, which I think is fair that we've got here, it doesn't automatically displace her assessment, but she must rebut it, distinguish it, or demonstrate that her own methodology was properly applied to really rebut that appraisal with with the legal presumption that her process is correct. That's ultimately how this has been interpreted. The only caveat to that is the other thing I kind of mentioned in our last meeting is that there's this Palanche versus Roberts County case, which is from 2025 South Dakota Supreme Court, which ultimately says that South Dakota's Article 11 prohibits taxation on to actual value. It's just reciting what law already was. In that case, at the circuit court level, the circuit court judge claimed here there were some brokers. In that other case, there were some brokers that had tried to give valuation. The circuit court said that contemporaneous appraisal of the property could rebut the presumption of the director's valuation. And that only an appraisal could. Ultimately, I don't think that's very important, but I think, again, it kind of, what I want you to pull from that is an appraisal can be evidence to rebut the valuation. But again, although we have to ensure that we're not taxing beyond fair market value, and here appraisal equals eventually taxation. It is pertinent conversation, but the legal presumption of correctness lies with her.
this appraisal is evidence against her valuation, then really what we have to do here is determine whether or not Linnea has rebutted that, distinguished it, or demonstrated that her own methodology was really applied in order to overcome this current appraisal.
And that's what I just experienced. And that's a good note for us too. Someone comes in, if you make a case for one, someone brings in an appraisal and you've got no follow-up to that, then it does stand.
Absolutely.
But I think that you made a strong case for why your comparables are much more comparable. I move to accept the director's recommendation.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. Anything else? Do we have to vote on the other ones that came before us?
I think we're good. I think that's it. It was just those two and
Well, I mean, appeals. We just heard.
We accepted the
You motioned.
recommendations.
We did make those.
Yeah.
Okay. I just want to make sure. I couldn't remember.
Yep.
I didn't remember that.
Sorry, it's been a lot. I mean, a 322 page packet in here. Thank
That's
you.
why there's 5 of us on this board.
That's right. That's right. We need 10 eyes.
thank you.
So, okay. Oh,
Yeah, you can adjourn. I don't think we have anything else for Board of Equalization.
So I'll entertain a motion to adjourn the County Equalization Board and reconvene as Board of County Commissioners.
So moved.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign, motion passes. We're in regular session. Are there any visitors to be heard? Hearing none. Got a public hearing, first reading of an ordinance of the 2013 revised zoning ordinance for Clay County. Specifically amending Article 2 definitions, Section 2.02. Article 3, general district regulations, Section 3-10. Mobile homes, manufactured homes, Article 4, districts and boundaries, Section 4.05. District regulations established. Sections 4.05.01 NRCS Natural Resource Conservation District. Section 4.05.02 and A1 Ag District Section 4.0503 Rural Residential District.
Right, so I'm back. The correction that was needed to be made on page 2, the section C1 was amended to be what we currently have on the books. So if this was to be adopted, everything would be same. The need for the modular home update is definitely still needed. So I had about 2 people come in my office and start asking about them, and I was like, well, give me a couple days, just be a basic permit. So.
And have you had any other comments on any of this language as it's been posted or anything?
Everyone's excited for it that I've talked to about it. I mean, being able to move a house in for, way cheaper than $400 a square foot for new homes.
Yep. Well, it's good that we got it caught and all cleaned up, and
Yep.
I move to approve this amendment.
Second.
A motion is second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
So opposed, same sign. Motion passes. There's no delay when he gives the thumbs up.
And I guess advance to a second reading is what I meant
Oh.
to say. Good point. Yep. Which I'm sure is what Glenn interpreted, right?
Right, whatever.
That's gonna be.
Read my mind. Thank you.
Next meeting.
Anything else?
Next.
Got a beat?
No.
Okay.
We can do, well, let's just do yours. It's just you just want the resolution for office closure on May, right?
Yep. So I'm gonna be moving over to Mike's old office. I figured instead of being interrupted throughout the whole day, I can, to make sure everything's buttoned up correctly.
Do we have a resolution? Was it in the packet?
It's in the packet, page
Yep.
16.
You have a copy to sign too in your papers there.
I do. How's the flow gonna work up there? How's it all gonna? So you're still gonna have the old office?
Stack
space
that
here?
you just had in your hand,
Yeah,
Travis.
so my office is gonna
Oh.
get turned into
Oh, that's a whole packet. I thought that
Yeah.
was the abatement.
flat storage and a whole bunch of other storage for Linnea. And then my office is gonna get turned, Mike's old office, mine. I'm somewhat being one of the sucker fish on sharks on Linnea. I'm gonna use her or her clerk to stop people from entering my room if I have a veteran in there. Just extra level of protections. I have to follow like HIPAA. Yep.
Oh, that's good.
It's very much like the land wing of the courthouse
Yeah.
now.
Yeah, which is really
Um,
good. I mean, I think those things together, I think they are together in a lot of people's minds, so.
Yeah.
And we've been very clear. I mean, there's still a boundary between our offices. My clerk will not be assisting with permits, will not be answering questions on behalf of the zoning office. That is still all going to be deferred to NOAA. But when working with disabled veterans, that it falls under all of the, medical and disability stuff. And right now, anybody can bust into his office in the middle of a very private meeting. We chatted with Bond Home because the director of equalization in Bond Home also wears the zoning and veterans hat. He does Noah and I's job combined out there, and they recently moved offices as well, just so he could have his own separate space because he was not able to fulfill veteran requirements because he was in the same office as his deputies. So.
Thank you.
Sounds like a good fit.
I'll entertain a motion for this resolution.
So move.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Roll call?
Mochler,
Yes.
Graylobe,
Yes.
Gilbertson,
Yes.
Brady.
Yes.
Motion passes.
Thank you, gentlemen.
Linnea, we've got an abatement from Missouri Valley Grove.
Excuse myself on this one.
Missouri Valley Growth applied for tax exempt status as of November 1st of 2024. They met all of the requirements of a 501c3, filled out the application timely. I neglected to get it in your packet last year because that's on me. It just slipped through the cracks and didn't get heard. You guys approved their tax exempt status as the equalization board back last meeting. And that kind of triggers the ability to abate the taxes payable in 2026, which should have been exempt and were not due to office error.
I'll move to approve the abatement for Missouri Valley Growth, Inc.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
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 Both same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you.
Okay, bid award, Brent. Bid award for removal of structure. What's this?
That's for clearing the ditch for.
How's that gonna work? That's supposed to be on a ditch board.
Shoot.
That is supposed to be under ditch board. We don't have it on the agenda, so we'll have to defer it.
Okay. Sorry about that. Bid award for the road widener.
Went through them, HTC didn't meet specs, so wanna go with the road widener from Butler.
We need a motion to accept that bid.
Move to.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion?
That was the lowest responsive bid. Yep. I read our whole bid book again and I was like, oh, yeah, the difference between responsive and responsible. All right, there you go. So. Yep.
Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Both same sign. Motion passes. Right of way application for Clay Union.
Everything looked good.
Move to approve the right of way application from Clay Union Electric.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, sign, motion passes.
While we're sitting here, do we want to discuss the regarding bid bonds for machinery purchase?
So we can get you back out there and to work instead of just sitting here looking at us. Leave that to the chair to say.
Yeah, we can, sorry. Um,
I included the bid packet or the bid booklet in your packets. It looks like we don't have to require bid bond for purchases, although we have in the past. So I guess that's up to you all.
This was a conversation we had a couple weeks ago too, and I agree with that. I mean, it's been my understanding that's how we've operated, but I don't believe there's anything that requires us in law to continue that practice.
and after, when I brought it up, we've only had one instance. And that was during COVID, where they came back and charged more. I mean, we could have gotten out of that bid and kept that bid. But I think I'm hoping we don't get back to that situation. So I think getting rid of the bid bond for machinery. Since it's a real product.
Yeah, and I think ultimately, since it's not required, it's just in future instances, he can move forward without the bid bond, and if this board doesn't approve of that, this board can tell Brent to go back to the drawing board essentially. So I don't think there's any
Administrative.
correct. I think ultimately it's just going to be a change in practice likely that if this board isn't happy with, can always send it back to the drawing board.
And in that instance, we could have rejected that bid. We just wouldn't have got to keep the bid bond check.
We had already accepted the bid. They
But-
came back later.
If they come back with a different price, then they're no longer meeting the bid, that's not what they did initially, right? So we were able to reject that, but we still.
Well, we didn't because it was gonna cost more anyway if we
Yeah,
would have.
Gotcha. Yeah.
They knew how to play the game.
Yep.
They didn't raise it enough to where we could rebid it and be better off.
Hopefully people that are playing games, remember they're playing them with public.
Yeah. Anything else on that or good?
Yep.
So do we need a motion to not require them right now? No, okay.
That's a little bit off, so thank you very much. Thanks, Brent.
Lane, quarterly report.
Yep, that time again. I believe it's in your packet.
Yep, one piece of paper for every dollar we paid you this quarter, I believe. Seems like. No, you're very, very thorough in your documentation and we appreciate it.
So anyway, if you had got any questions for me, I'll be happy to answer.
Entertain a motion.
Move to accept the report.
Second.
Motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Post sign, motion passes.
Okay, thank you.
Sign it. Okay, Angela Jackson, Fairview Township Board, petition to vacate portion of the streets.
Yeah,
Angela, can you hear us?
Yes.
Okay.
Yep, I can hear you. So I'm just putting it forward for a motion to approve of what the Fairview Township Board of Supervisors agreed to vacate the road.
So, I spent a little time reading statutes and all of my readings pointed to this already being resolved. So that the township is the entity with jurisdiction on this particular piece of road, and therefore the township has the authority to vacate that road, and that the document that you provided in our packet today indicates that they've already done that. So I think that we don't actually need an official motion at this level of government, but I do appreciate you bringing it into this space so that, the wider public is notified, but at this point, I don't think that there's any change or decision that we would be able to make so.
I agree with you.
Okay, perfect. Thank you very much. I'll put that in for future notice.
Okay, thank you.
Michael, ban ordinance.
That's just got left on there because it's still on the to-do list, but I've been extraordinarily
Okay.
busy, so,
Now, I do have a question on this.
yeah.
Reading court records. If the current burn ban ordinance doesn't work, how did we just find somebody for a burn ban?
Well, it works. I think that, and that fact pattern meets precisely what the new ordinance is gonna require.
Okay,
So the reason we moved forward was because, how it currently reads permits what we're trying to accomplish. It just also has a bunch of other additional language that we would like to clean up.
okay.
So when we analyzed the fact pattern in that case, it was precisely on point to what we're trying to regulate. So we move forward with the case because the ordinance as written does permit for that.
Okay.
So.
I'm gonna skip Caitlin.
Yes.
Yes.
I made it. Well, good, because I read 215 pages of a grant application last night.
Welcome.
Yeah, that was like a lot of work. So,
It is, but it's worth it normally.
Yeah.
As you know, I'm here just asking that I get the authority to submit the application for our domestic violence grant. We have increasing numbers every year, unfortunately, in this realm. And so each year this grant allows us to specifically focus more on these types of cases. It allows our office to ensure we're prosecuting these cases to the best of our abilities. And so each year I put in the work and get all the numbers together. Carrie, thank you for always assisting me in that. And then I bring it to you guys with the hopes that you will allow me to continue to present this grant to the network of South Dakota to keep getting the money to be able to do what we do, essentially.
is it targeted differently in different grant cycles? I felt like have we been doing this particular stop program the last several cycles, or were there other things that we were utilizing the funds for?
We specifically always apply for the STOP grant because that pertains to prosecution.
Okay.
So there are different ones for different types, like the shelters. They have a completely different grant that they go through. Other victims assistance, there are different programs for those. This one specifically pertains to like state's attorney's offices that do the prosecution work. And so that's the one we always apply under.
So, one, Caitlin works tirelessly on this and is not easy. So I really appreciate the work she does for the county on that because she spends hours upon hours. And when her caseload right now, like it is right now, extraordinarily high, she prioritizes this and gets it done. Also, you'll notice, I've told two of you that this grant is less than what we would have hoped for because Cameron Morgan, the other attorney in the office, is sadly leaving us next month. Him and his family are moving back to Oregon, where they're from, and they're expecting their third child. So I think with his wife's graduation and their newborn en route, the timing was right for them to get closer to family. So we're losing him, which is unfortunate to lose him because he's been great for us, but also as it relates to the grant, it does drive because we don't have a third occupied seat, and how the language of the grant reads. Caitlin was very diligent on that. We weren't able to get all the funds that we traditionally.
Yeah, and so in looking at, because I keep track of what we get every single year, last year was significantly higher at 60,000, is what we were, well, just under 61,000 is what we were awarded. In 2024, we only got 30,000, and so we jumped significantly with that third attorney. Plus, there were other, budget considerations, and so I asked for more from the network and we were given more. It did decrease to that 44,000 that I'm requesting because Cameron is leaving. I anticipate, this time next year, Godspeed, we have another attorney. It will go back up. And when I apply for the grant every year, I'm required to get a match from the commission, which is that 1/3, which is where that approximate 14,000 comes from you guys. That goes to
the other people in the office. So the grant that we get from the state, that applies to attorney salary essentially, when we request it. And so the match then goes to everybody else. So, if we have a legal secretary in the front, Linda and Victoria, that's what our in-kind match goes towards. So. Any questions?
Move to authorize the submission of the grant.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes.
Thank you. As I do that, the letter for you to sign, I need it to in order to submit.
Still need this one. Correct?
Yeah.
Thanks. Scott.
Morning.
Morning.
Excuse me. Just here to talk about the, I don't know what we're calling this project, but this project we're in.
Too long.
The never ending story.
The never ending story. That's a good one. So anyway, just to kind of give you guys a overall view of what's going on here and stuff. I'm not here to complain. I'm just here to let you all know that I've taken a considerable bit out of my improvement line to put in the budget, which I think that's what this project's all about. So I had $100,000 in there for the year, and I've spent about $45,000 now on different items. You know, this stuff's hindsight's great. It's 2020. There's you overlook things in the beginning, and you get in the project and say, okay, yeah, we should do this, we should do that. Like examples, like I got some real nice waste receptacles for the new area over here. Blinds for the courtroom was in my budget for this year. We had some extra coring we had in the building, and what they wanted to come down out of Sioux Falls was between $5,000 and $10,000. Bore us like 3 or 4 holes through our floors. I got a local guy to come in for $1,000. You know, it's just little things like that. They start all to add up. We've had some moves of the state's attorney and the treasurer's office at $1,300. We had blinds for the state's attorney's area. So anyway, just kind of letting you know what direction we're going here. Obviously we moved Michael out of his office, and this is the time I need to make improvements and repairs in this building. This is how old are we here? Since 1912. Anyway, 113 years old. So when's the next time we're going to see these spaces empty? So like take the old state's attorney's area, for instance. About to wrap that little project up there, which isn't even part of this project. So to repair and paint the walls was about $7,500. It seems like a lot, but I got it done a lot cheaper going through the vendors I know than if it would have went through Lloyd's vendors. So, you know, we have the potential here. We have an empty treasurer's office. They've been in there for 113 years. We have the opportunity to go in and do those walls. Same way with Noah's office. He comes out of there. And the same way with the Register of Deeds office, if we move them over to the treasurer's office, which is kind of the talk. So, you know, let alone those 3 rooms, we're looking at, you know, $22,000, $23,000 to get the walls done and get everything looking nice again. So, and then other stuff that's not on that it's not in this budget, not in these actuals here, that is like you get up in the judge's chambers area and the small courtroom and the old jury room. I just decided when we got into there that we needed to take care of those walls too. So that was $14,000 to take care of those walls. Kind of let you know where we're going, where I'm going, and the amount of the money that I'm spending. I'm not asking for a blessing to go over. You know, I got about, I figured about $50,000 left out of that my improvement line to spend on things that are coming up. So, and then, something we got going on in the future is always kind of working on the security of the building. You know, we're working on some of that within the scope of this current project. We have a handful of doors, maybe half a dozen, if that many, scheduled for a different type of security system, as you will. Going away from the old alarm locks that we have here. That system's pretty adequated. We're starting to have trouble with some of those already. The software system for it is non-existent anymore. So that was one of the reasons I wanted to go away from it. Plus the other system is just a lot easier to take people in and out. You know, if you got somebody that leaves disgruntledly, you can just shut that code down immediately. So they can't gain access. It's just a lot more of a secured building. So, you know, we might have a few of those locks that are coming up that are dying that we might have to get to sooner than later. There's several of them, 2, 3 over in the state's attorney's office, that we should address. So just kind of, you know, on the doors, I think, to elaborate on the doors a little bit more, if my memory serves me correct, when I started looking in this a year or 2 years ago, they're about $5,000 a piece. That included getting the cabling pulled to them. I haven't received I went ahead and okayed the pulling of the cabling to all the doors in the entire courthouse, including the west annex here. I have not received a bill for that one yet. I'm going to figure that's about $10,000. So, because that was something we are going to do in the future anyway, and the building was tore up, and might as well just get it done now instead of coming back a year, 2 years, and tearing everything up again. So the cabling's already laid up in the ceilings and at the doors. So when the time comes, we decide to address certain door to upgrade security. We already have the cabling there. So I don't think it's going to be quite $5,000 a door to tie in cabling and put in a dropout strike, they call it. But you know, you might be looking at $3,000 a door, $2,500 to the strikes and tie it into the new system. So
What were Rhonda's old office, Michael's and Linnea's? Is that those 3 that you were talking about? Are you talking about Linnea's also?
Hold on a second.
To redo the walls and everything?
Oh, excuse me. Yeah, that would be the new assessor's office on second floor, Noah's old office. Linnea's office is just about done, so we can just kind of take that off the board. But the other offices I would like to do that people are vacating is Noah's office, the treasurer's office, and Michael's old office is done. Yeah. So, and then the registered deeds office, if we move them to the treasurer's office.
So,
you know, do we have to do Noah's old office since it becomes a storage? No, but once again, the room's empty. It's like, should probably address it. So
on the door security, I can add, I think my office has 3 different doors. It has that old system code onto it. I think you've replaced 2 of those because they were just not functioning. One has never functioned, and the other one
by the wayside.
Caitlin can't access either door without her fob because both have codes, but then the one door isn't working at all anymore. That happened a couple weeks ago. Nobody can gain access, even though it appears to be trying to function. And the other one is like losing codes. So now Caitlin's code doesn't get it, even though it used to. But these are, again, old systems that also went months and months without being used. And I wonder if, you know, the constant use maybe was better for them, and then they sat stale for months and months, and now we've tried to bring them back to life. And so we're having all sorts of problems getting in and out of our door. We've made it, I mean, we're fine. We can make it's not functioning like they're supposed to. And not from, I know Scott and Jeff Anders have put in a lot of work trying to figure it out.
The ones coming off the hallway,
They're-
your main entrance.
Right.
None of this sounds like fluff. It all sounds necessary and it all sounds more affordable to address it during the scope of this project than at any other time in the future. So I think you're making good choices.
Okay.
I don't know what the other commissioners would think about in the future. You know, we have a commission to contingency line, and I wouldn't be opposed to moving maybe $20,000 or $25,000 from the commissioner contingency budget to the building budget should you get tight. Taking care of the things that you discussed today. So
I know that also, I'll bring this up too real quick. There's grant money out there for this door security. That was my approach to going into the future, was to break it down into phases and to apply for this grant money, which I believe we can still do, you know, and recoup some of the cost, like on the pulling this cabling, which is part of that project, you know. I'd have to do a little bit research on that and talk to Scott, but you know, I believe we can. We will have some money coming from this current project once it's all done and said and over with, and we can submit the whatever we have to submit back to the I forget the name of that organization.
UGS.
UGS.
The only
So
the scope of that though has to be courtroom security, right? Or because a courthouse or courtroom security.
excuse me. Our courtroom or courthouse security, and they have approved. I forgot how many doors I got in the scope of that project that they have approved. So, I mean,
Aren't those already spoken for?
yeah, there's a certain number of them. I know maybe
9 or something, 8 or 9.
I forget the total. You know, they're 3, 4. I forget. Be honest with you. There's a handful of them here and a handful over at the courthouse. So,
But like yours wouldn't qualify, would they? Your office?
the way I read that paperwork, I'm not a lawyer, but just a layman. I read courtroom and or courthouse security, and they think that the courthouse, so securing all county offices is very viable.
Okay.
They want to see courthouses.
Building that.
Right. I was just thinking the same thing. It was like, we paid for a fire suppressor. Yep. We're all one building.
So
And it wouldn't hurt to try. I mean, that's the thing
exactly,
about that.
exactly.
The
It's
it's there.
no,
I wouldn't expect that you have a lot of interactions with CCOG in your regular role, but I know Noah does, and I see that they might be able to provide a little grant assistance on that.
yeah.
Grant writing assistance, just kind of review the stuff. And
I wrote the last one.
So, good. All right. Well, we want.
I'm not an expert.
Good enough.
I think I had some Michael and other people along the way, but got through that one. So anyway, I just kind of wanted to bring up to speed on that, kind of let you know what was going on, and yeah, everything. I think everything's looking good. We've come across some snafus along the way. Obviously, I mean, it's construction, it's renovation, it's going to happen, but we've worked through it. Lloyd's been good to work with. I mean, they've given us a lot of freebies, if you will. Have done stuff that they didn't have to do but so I'm looking forward to being over, but but we might just roll into another one too. So, you know, to get this court service squared away and room for the public defender, visiting judges. So we got a ways to go.
I was just gonna bring that up. We did get an estimate. Somewhat of an estimate for knocking out a wall in main floor. In order to create another office for Vic. Cause we got to get him out of that where he's at now. So that's something that's on the horizon too. And did you have a timeline on that? Sooner rather than later, or what?
Are they not coming down here then, or?
Things have all kind of been up in the air. There's ultimately going to have to be a short term. because what we're talking about is the juvenile court service officer who's in what is going to be a space that's gonna be boy only. It's gonna be no longer accessible to the public through the, at some point in the near future, through the end of this project as door security improves. So he's gonna have to take that space with this project coming to a conclusion. And then that'll likely be a temporary space. I think it's gonna have to be down here, and then we're gonna have to make some decisions on court services, which has just been a discussion of the committee. I don't think we have a time frame on bringing some sort of recommendation to the commission, but there's been a couple of things kind of in the works, and perhaps the most feasible option is that IT room or the on the main floor that used to be a part of the vault for the
Registered deeds.
Visa.
yeah, similarly trying to maybe think about making a room on the first floor using that same concept, which is already adjacent next door to court services. That's out of your
Right,
Very
which is essentially empty now. So,
Yeah.
and it's not needed. I don't need that lower floor.
But of course, what did you find out? You 1.5 foot, 18-inch or something, 17, 18, 19-inch wall to have to drill through. So
What'd you do with all the stuff that was in the lower basement or lower pole?
State Archives said we didn't need to keep it, so I got rid of it.
That kind of breaks my heart.
I had so much fun poking around down there. There's all kinds of crazy stuff in that room. Is it all in a soggy pile in the dump?
Yeah,
Travis, there was a document I wanted to get a copy of before it went.
oh, shoot.
Oh,
But either way, we're pushing a hole in a hole. Putting in a new, I call it a header, what it's. whatever that
I
word
forget what their
is, but
term is.
that engineer did sign off is. Right,
Sounds like, yeah.
so that's the main thing.
Hmm.
That won't
So-
be cheap either,
No,
of course.
You know, that was our resolution to services. And then, Lisa's running out of room and there's an issue there with the air conditioning within that vault, which, you know, even if she stayed there, you could resolve that with a mini split. But, if she moves over to the treasurer's office, she has a little more room, for expansion and growth. One reason is she's hard pressed in her current vault is in that MEP project 3 years ago, we had a rack put in there, server put in there, for the technologies, for the county technologies. That's taking up room in there. We got some ductwork coming through there from that MEP project. That's taking up room.
Taking off some heat too.
Yeah, that server's putting off heat. So she's struggling in there. She wants air long before anybody else wants air in the building, which isn't a huge issue because each fan coil unit is applied with the electric heating coil. The West Annex can heat separately on its own. So it's not a huge issue. The building like I thought it would, but still, you get a little bit better control over your heat, obviously, if you're on the hot water versus a low. Plus, it's probably a lot cheaper than running all those electric coils. So if we were to move her over there, we would be definitely put a mini split within that vault so it can be a separate conditioned space. So, you know, that's part of the process. Part of one of the things we're thinking about is moving her over there. The registered deeds would become, we'd put a wall up in there and we'd have a space for the public defender and the visiting attorneys. Correct, Michael? That's our thought.
So one of the big things is right now with this remodel of the third floor, traditionally, defense attorneys, which can number up to a dozen on a Tuesday morning like today, there's been the public defender's office, which for now has been Seth Clint's office. So when he's here and he has clients, he can meet with them inside of that office on the third floor. The jury room was also accessible to attorneys who need to have a private discussion, as is usually the small courtroom. With this project, we're really, again, trying to increase security. All of those spaces are either don't exist or are now going to be behind closed and locked doors that are inaccessible. Meaning that we right now do not even have a public defender office, and we don't have a place for other attorneys to meet with their clients. And usually, to no fault of the attorney, indigent individuals actually do not avail themselves to their attorneys often until the day of court. So it puts everything really slowed down and inefficient when there isn't a space to meet with a client in the 5, 10 minutes, 30 minutes leading up to court. And it's usually not the attorney's fault. It's usually just the nature of how this goes is folks that are utilizing public defender oftentimes just don't avail themselves to them until it's time for it. You know, it doesn't matter how many phone calls they make or appointments that they set. Oftentimes, it's not true of everyone, of course, but it's very common. So right now, we're looking at a situation in which there really is no meeting place for these attorneys to try to have a confidential conversation with their client anywhere in this courthouse with how they sit through the scope of these projects. So again, trying to figure out a place for that. Of course, we need to prioritize an actual office for our public defender and also just a private area for other attorneys to be able to have a conversation with an attorney in the lead up to court.
I actually saw that a couple of Tuesdays ago. I had to go up there to third floor to get back to where the contractors were, and they were all over trying to find a meeting place. They're back in that hallway with the construction equipment. They were really struggling. So,
and with that inefficiency, it ultimately is costing us more money. These attorneys that are on a contract, an hourly rate contract right now, when they're incapable of having meaningful conversations, they continue their case, and these attorneys are being paid hourly by the county to represent clients, and without having these inadequate meeting location, at least in part, that's why additional cost is probably being accrued.
so I know I wasn't at the meeting last day, but I hear you guys got a number and asked them to trim it down.
That was for knocking that hole in a wall.
Is that just for that office, or was that for putting up a wall and the potential wall register of deeds?
Just the court services.
Yeah,
Seriously.
yeah.
But I think at the next meeting, they're supposed to have a better number. So, well, a trimmed down number, reducing the scope of their work.
Okay. All right. Well, that's all I have. Unless you guys have any questions. Oh,
Thank you, Scott.
okay. You're welcome. Thank you. Appreciate your time.
Okay, discussion regarding Senate Bill 96, the county sales tax. I think we should table this until Kevin and Dave can both be here in person. I think it's gonna be an easier conversation for Kevin, for sure, if he's here.
Yeah.
And Dave should be part of it.
Yeah, it's a big talk. I'm anticipating, very likely not being able to be at the May 12th meeting. So I just asked
that the
maybe
next one?
that'd be our next one. So if maybe we could try picking it up at the one after that.
That's fine. I just want everybody here.
Yo, I agree. Move to table.
Second.
A motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say
Aye.
Pose same sign, passes. Annual Employee Assistance Program contract renewal. Anything change on that, Carrie?
They are adding sessions. So our employees essentially will have more sessions available to them under the contract. And I mean, otherwise it's just a renewal of what we have.
Do we have some?
People are using it.
Okay, that's my
Yep,
main
yep,
question.
people are using it. We've had some good usage, so
That's great.
I
Well,
think it's definitely worth continuing.
I moved to approve. That was really my only question. I mean, I think that the $2,000 rate, you don't get very much counseling paying that out of pocket. So I think that if people are using this and it's supporting our workers, it's.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Discussion regarding paying Paul Epson $100 for work done on microphones.
I'll make that motion. We reimburse for that work. He came here 2 different times. One was just him and Linnea. He got everything dialed in, and then he showed up for another meeting and got everything tuned up. So
Yeah. I gladly second that. Yep. Glad you brought that up. Good idea.
Second, you said?
Yeah.
So I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion?
I was
Just
just
how
gonna weigh
grateful.
in on that if you have a second. I've
Yeah.
been watching your meeting and it's really working well, but I would say that those of you who have your microphones pointed at you, it's very good. Michael, see how yours is pointed in the air? If you bring that down a little ways and point it at you, you'd be better. It is far better than what you guys have had in the past, so I do compliment that work.
Great. Is this any better, Andy?
I guess
Sorry,
not.
muting myself.
Yes.
Yep. Yeah, no, that does help. Having those directly at you does seem to help. Pointing in the air is better, but not as good. So yeah, that's a lot better.
Great.
We can take another 5 minutes if you want to criticize Michael some more.
Yeah, it'd be great.
I just know,
I will set us
just
an
call him
agenda.
out.
He's done it before. Yeah.
This is what we do.
Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. We did the bid bonds for the machinery. Carrie, recognition for your deputies.
Yeah, sometimes I feel like our county people just do their job and they don't really get the recognition that they deserve for some of the extra things that they do. Both of my deputies recently completed training with the federal government, Action Assistance Commission, and they both earned a certificate of federal professional training for that. So just kind of wanted to give them a little recognition. I don't have them down here today because they're both upstairs handling absentee voting. So, again, just kind of doing their job. I wanted to give them a little pat on the back for that.
Well, I concur. Really grateful for that. Yep, it's only getting harder to manage elections these days, and appreciate them putting in the time with it.
Routine business, approve accounts payable and payroll vouchers.
move to approve the vouchers.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. Any further discussion? Hearing none, all those in favor say aye.
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 Opposed, same sign. Motion passes. Everybody gets to see the department monthly reports and recent payroll changes. Anything else? Cause that's the end of the agenda.
The only other thing I just wanted to share, just to make sure this is getting out there through whatever channels possible, but I know that there was delays in ballots being available due to no fault of our own here on the county level, but they are available. Open the June 2nd election is open. People can vote vote early in the auditor's office now. So
Yep,
thank
we
you for
are.
navigating that.
We are up and running with that. So
That's great.
I will entertain a motion to adjourn.
So moved.
Second.
I have a motion and a second. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Opposed, same
Aye.
sign. Motion passes.